I work at a company called Deep, and we work basically in the same lines as what everybody's been speaking about tonight. We work with crowdsourcing, we deal with alternative investment, we deal with alternative energy, we deal with alternative everything basically. And our goal is to adapt all these new modes to the standard business model. Because the standard business model is kind of broken. We see that in pretty much any industry out there. So we figured that there was a way to fix that. And it was born out of my time in finance and watching finance go from creating jobs and creating innovation to just creating more money and shuffling more money. And it was born out of the founder, Stephen McGuire. It was born out of his site in the charitable organizations and watching charitable dependency grow and watching money misspent. And we felt that there was a better way to do things. Two of the things that we do, or actually the three things that we do right now, deal specifically with waste. And the thing is that most people look at garbage as waste. It's not. It's a resource that hasn't been commoditized. It's a resource that we have not captured. And the problem is right now, most people expect that waste needs to be dealt with by municipalities. Waste in the third world isn't our responsibility. Waste here, waste there is not us. The figures you see up on the board here are just for the US. And this is actually from 2009. And you can triple those numbers for 2011. It's a serious problem. And people are capturing only a small percentage of this. And what do? You know, how do we make sure that this isn't just a burden on the taxpayer? How do we make sure this isn't a burden on our global brothers and our global sisters? How do we handle it? So the big thing is right now in the last few decades, we've seen recycling programs. We see reuse, a lot of reuse, in fact, in emerging markets. We see them, you know, gathering and scavenging. But that's not enough. My company requires three things when it deals with a new company. So we're basically an incubation company. We take care of whatever you don't know how to take care of. If you're an inventor and you create machinery, maybe you're not that good at finance, so we'll take that position for you. Maybe you're not that good at marketing, so we'll pick up that burden for you. But you have to hold yourself to three very, very stringent rules. One, you have to capture an unused resource. That's not that hard. There's lots of unused resources. They're everywhere. We look around, they're on the floor, they're everywhere. So that one's not too bad. It cannot require a dramatic change in consumer activities. That's a hard one. Usually when you look at innovation, you look at alternative energy sources, burning plastic for fuel, corn, biodiesel. All these end up removing something from one cycle and putting it into another. And it doesn't really do anything. You're just shuffling piles of garbage here and there. And you're not really affecting anything. And you're demanding that the consumer pay more for whatever that good is that you're shuffling. The last is it has to be more than self-sustaining. I am not here to create charitable dependency. I'm here to make sure that the communities that we deal with and the communities that I am willing to deal with through these companies are supported and beyond supported. They can take care of theirs and the community next to them so that they can continue this process. Not the easiest thing to actually have happen. Most of the time it ends up costing more than you'd think to start the business, as many of you in the audience are aware. And the other half of the time you never realize how much you have to pay in payroll. So, what are some of the problems we run into? Well, some major ones is because I want our communities to be self-supporting, and because I want them to be better than self-supporting, I have a massive issue on both sides. I have an issue from the nonprofit side because asking for it to be profitable is a bad thing. I'm making money off the backs of the poor people. I'm doing something incorrect. I am making, you know, children pick up scrap metal in Nigeria or something. I'm doing something wrong. On the other side, you have financial organizations and venture capitalists, and their problem is it's too risky, way too risky. I'm not touching that. You got to offer me 300%, and they can actually demand those kind of prices. They can look at a business model and say, that's going to make it, so we'll put down 30%, but the only reason they're going into it is because their internal documentation shows a 300% gain in 24 months or 36 months. The other problem you run into is that right now you have what's a lot of people are calling uncoordinated innovation. So you have a lot of businesses and a lot of individuals all over the world doing some phenomenal things in the same vein, but nobody's really talking to each other. Recently, over the last 5 or 6 years, we're seeing that you know, cross-communication and this, you know, collaboration happening, but it's not happening on a major scale. And until it happens on a major scale, no major corporations are going to get interested. They're going to see it as something to look good in the news. They're going to see it as something that they can do as a PR stunt. But other than that, they're not going to touch it. What do communities need? Well, the one thing, after thinking about it for a long time, the one thing that I recognize that they need is get rid of some of the waste they have. I don't want you to change your ways. I would love to see that. I would love to see less consumption, but I'm not going to ask that. So we know we're going to have mass consumption, and we know we're going to have to throw it somewhere. So what are we going to do with that? Are we going to pellet it up, use some nasty chemicals, and then ship it off to China so they can turn it into a different polymer? Sure, let's do that. I mean, that's a great way to capture something. But there's other ways to deal with it. And those are the ways that I'm looking at it. I'm looking at that pile of garbage as what piece in there is going to make more money for that community. What piece in there is maybe, not doing something well for them. Maybe it's a plastic bottle on the ground, and maybe you have a problem with malaria. And so that plastic bottle sitting there on the ground is breeding more mosquitoes, and now all of a sudden you have a larger malaria problem. So how do we make it plausible and not just say, hey, can you please pick up that bottle? Hey, can you help me clean up? That'll get you so far, but unfortunately right now, a lot of times we got to make cash off of it. We have to give people a reason to get invested into it. The other problem when you're dealing with these kind of stuff is, with these kind of businesses, is that you have really specialized foundations and groups of people only looking to invest in very specific niches. And if you don't match that criteria, you're not getting a dime. So you see innovation after innovation after innovation just sitting there on a shelf doing nothing because it will impinge on somebody else or it doesn't fit these criteria. And you're stuck. So you have entrepreneurs sitting around on these phenomenal ideas and they're not able to do anything. They just have to sit there with them. And they present at TED, which is a wonderful thing, and with the advent of YouTube and internet connectivity, we have a lot more access to it, thank God. But it's still in this phase of uncoordinated innovation, and we want to get it to the next step. We want to bring it to where people are looking at this as the new way to do business. Not the new way, the only way to do business. The old model's done. We went through the Industrial Revolution. We raped and pillaged everything we could on the earth. Now it's time to look at what we made out of that and figure out how to use it. The one thing that I do ask consumers to do, and the reason I ask them to do this is because it's very easy for them. Right now, because we're in such a connected age, you have access to information everywhere. And you have access to massive groups of people. I mean, I can name a couple. Colbert, getting 1 million people to join his Facebook group. People putting together, breast cancer awareness groups on Facebook. YouTube is the third most visited website, has 50 million members. I have Reddit up there. It's just kind of a news aggregator website. You can go there and get all kinds of random stuff off the internet. And the reason I have it is because it's the 143rd most viewed internet website. And it still has 100 plus million unique visits every week. I think it's actually 143 right now. But unique visits every week. So you have access to all the information out there, seeing new innovation, seeing new things happen. You have complete access to it. And on top of that, with just a little click, you don't have to go out and proselytize. You don't have to actually do anything except for sit in your house and click a little button, and you can create a Facebook page. If you have a passion, or if you find somebody who has that passion, they already have a page, you can attach yourself to that. And that's what I'm a proponent of. Attach yourself to a great project. You don't have to come up with the idea. That's not necessary. You don't have to be the leader. You don't have to be the crazy person up on stage waving their hands until they have that first follower. You can be the first follower. Just click, yes, I'd like to join that. Link it to my friends. I'll tell somebody when I'm out at the bar tonight. Whatever it is. Just attach yourself to a great project. The company that I'm going to go over with today is, it's phenomenal. It's been in the works for about a decade, and it's a New Zealand company. It's called Bifusion. And a gentleman named Peter Lewis is the inventor of this machine. And let me step back for a minute. The commodity that I want to capture is plastic. Now, I know you guys know that there is a large percentage of plastic being recycled these days. We have plastic consumption here and per person per year usage of plastic. And then you have the different kinds of plastic. We all have seen the little triangles, 1 through 7. Now, most of us probably don't know what those stand for. Or if we do, we can't pronounce them because they have some bizarre names. I think it was brought up in a speech just earlier, one of the videos, I believe, that was played. Polypropylene, the packaging material that your computers come in. That stuff is horrible. We know it's horrible. Oh, but nobody recycles it. The only ones that are recycled up there are 1 and 2, polyethylene terephthalate and high-density polyethylene. That's it. The other ones, there's about a 2% recovery, I think, roughly. So the rest of it just sits in landfills. I think 25% of some landfills is plastic alone. So imagine the life expectancy that I can add to a landfill by recycling all this plastic. Each of those, low-density polyethylene, polystyrene, polycarbonate, all these uncaptured. So I ignore those first 2. I'll let everybody who's collecting those for CV credit, everybody who's collecting those right now, they can have that. I'm not going to touch that. I'm just interested in the rest of it. And look how much we have. We have 28 kilograms per person per year in China, and we know that there's over 1 billion people in China. I'm not even going to put the figure down because it's a giant figure. It's huge. Each one is huge. So we have a massive resource that's just sitting there. Right now in the US, I believe the price on a ton of raw plastic, roughly about $260, depending on what area you're in. Just in the US, about $260 a ton. In other places in the country, there is no price. $1, pennies. Literally, it's nothing. Nobody cares. So the machine that they've adapted or built is a phenomenal machine. And I do mean phenomenal, because the first thing that you have to do with plastic is you have to either separate it and sort it, which is a time-intensive process. You have to use chemicals to treat it, to change the polymer. You have to do something to it that is more detrimental than it is to just throw it away, which is saying something for something that takes so much energy and costs so much. So the machine that they've created does a couple of phenomenal things. It takes all plastics, number 1 through 7, and in one sweep, without cleaning it, without doing anything to it, you can shovel that into the machine, and out to the other side comes a building block, similar to a cinder block out the other end. Now, this isn't a small machine. It's probably about half the size of this room. But this machine can build up to, and this is a scalable system, but this machine can do 4,000 bricks a day. That's in a 10-hour work cycle. That's not 24 hours a day. That's 10 hours. It can do 4,000 bricks. That's almost 50 tons of plastic every day off of one machine. But that's not even the amazing part. It's scalable. This is a miniature version. And it's specifically built because, as we heard earlier, we have the Pacific Gyre, and I think we even have one in the Atlantic, where there's a giant mess of plastic. How do we clean it up? Are you guys going to donate the money? Is there going to be a government in the world that's going to say, you know what, I don't care that that's not my coastline. I'm going to drop the $1 billion to go clean that up. No problem. No. Private companies are going to be the ones that clean it up. And this is a system that can do it. This can be ship-mounted. You can collect the plastic right there, feed it into the machine, and this little machine can do 250 bricks in a day. Clean up the plastic. We're not shoveling the pile of garbage from the ocean to land. We are shoveling the pile of garbage and creating a quantifiable, usable resource for building. We're using less timber, we're using less metal, and we're using something that has a R rating that's solid. It has a great rating for earthquake uses. This is a material that could be put into any number of situations. So we have it scalable. We can go from ship-mounted to clean up the earth or the oceans, all the way up to these 4,000 bricks a day. It's 1 million bricks annually. It takes roughly 280 bricks to build a 20 by 20 room. 800 to 1,500 blocks to build a moderate dwelling. 4,000 bricks a day, that's almost 3 houses. So what can you do? Create a group. That's what you can do. You don't have to think about this project. You can be, oh, this is excellent, this is interesting, but that project in Bifusion, that's the first step. What we need and what I want consumers to do, what I want individuals in the audience, and what I want people looking and watching this online to do, I want them to go out and look for the next big thing. I want them to find me and my company the next big thing that I can help progress. I want them to go and tell their friends about it. I want them to do something with it. And you know what? All it takes is for you to sit down and click that little button. It doesn't take a lot of work. It's something that you can do in a moment, anytime you want. Some of the other things that, I shut off my slides. Somebody will start it up. Some of the other things that we're working on are alternative energies. We're working on documentaries. We have a number of businesses that we work with directly, and Bifusion is kind of our benchmark. They're the people that took, it took us months to figure out this strategy, to find out how we could best, use this and how best to implement these, how best to implement these machines. And they're actually very cost effective, surprisingly enough. I mean, they're still expensive, let's not lie. But this is something that we can do, and this is something that you can do. You can actually you can attach yourself to a project. So I am offering this project to you. If you want to attach yourself to this project, you can attach yourself to this project. If this isn't your bag, attach yourself to something else. I'm quite sure that anybody here in this audience can name at least one or two things that they think is a necessity as we go through in the next decade. Whether it be alternative energies or whatever it is, you must have something in your mind that you feel is a necessity. So push it. Push it to companies like mine. There's a number of them out there. They're a little hard to find. We're a new breed, trying to do something slightly charitable, but we're trying to actually make it possible for communities to support themselves. And that's the most important part. That is the absolute most important part, is the community has to support itself. It can't just be, I've come up with a great idea, or you've come up with a great idea. It has to actually be implementable. What is it going to help that community? Is it going to further the cause of each community that involves? Because the stronger they are, the larger they can grow, and they can affect the next community over, and the next community over, and they can affect it globally, and that's what we want. We want to see a reduction in waste. We want to see a reduction in these things globally. We don't want to see it just in the U.S. This isn't just a problem in the third world. This is a problem for everybody, and the garbage patch is a perfect example. It's a problem for everybody, for the entire globe. So that's what we want to see happen. We want to see you, that's the big change that I'm willing to ask consumers to do. Because I don't feel that it's something that you can't do. I don't feel that it's something that you're going to have to work very hard at. You're going to be able to do it right then, right there, with just a click of a button. And I'll be on the other side, and I'll do the hard work, I promise. I'll write the strategies, and I'll have the annoying meetings. It'll be great. But because we have this wonderful, cheap internet, maybe I won't have to fly everywhere and get groped. So it's excellent. I get to actually just have my video conferences. But there are people like us, and we're going to do that. And I encourage you, each and every one of you, to think about that. Think about what project that you would just be willing to click on, and what project you would be willing to actually proactively approach. And then find somebody to attach yourself to. Or find people who can attach to you, whichever it may be, but find that. And you will be surprised at what you can actually accomplish. And hopefully, this machine and my presentation has interested you, and you'll tell somebody about it. Because the more people who know about this, the quicker you're going to see it implemented. And that's what I want to see as a global implementation. Thank you.